A few days have passed since the Vermilion contest, and Ash, Serena, Brock and Lusia are back on the road again. Lusia is a bit bummed that she had to leave the city without getting a chance to battle Lieutenant Surge, but unfortunately, when she'd returned to the gym the day after the contest, it had been to a note announcing the lieutenant's departure, having left town to undergo rigorous training in the wild. With no return date listed, Lusia had no choice but to give her friends the go-ahead to move on to Saffron City, with plans to double back at some point in the future. Her spirits are somewhat lifted, however, when Brock informs the group that Saffron does possess a gym, with the rumors being that Sabrina the gym leader is one of the strongest in the region. The idea of such a challenge excites Ash, who declares they should pick up the pace so he can get his 4th badge ASAP, while Lusia grins that though she agrees with his sentiment, Ash will have to wait, since when they arrive, she's challenging first this time. This claim sets off a brief spate of bickering, much to the chagrin of Brock and Serena, though little do they know they are not the only ones listening, as far away in a darkened room, the eyes of a young woman flash. The remainder of the trip to Saffron passes without incident, with the most eventful thing to happen to our heroes being the sight of a weird little girl in the forest, not far out of town. However, such things are driven from their mind the moment they walk through the city gates. At once they are assailed by bangs and pops, with Brock declaring it's an ambush. However, as they soon learn from a pair of hula girls, it is just fireworks to celebrate their arrival. Puzzled, Serena asks why they are so important, with one of the women explaining that they are the millionth visitors to Saffron City, and so have won an all-expense-paid night at the fabulous Hotel DX. Eagerly, the friends exclaim that this is great since they're exhausted after all that walking, and allow themselves to be led into a luxurious-looking skyscraper a few blocks down the road. Unfortunately, when things seem too good to be true, that is because they are. A fact Ash, Serena, Brock and Lusia learn when they step inside the hotel's lobby and are promptly shoved onto a warp tile. Turning round, the last thing the group sees before being teleported away are the hula girls clutching Pikachu and Eevee in their arms, while on their faces sinister smirks bloom. A moment later, our heroes find themselves in a sealed room with no windows or doors, and as they look around for an escape route, they are met instead with the familiar cackling of a pair of malcontents. A TV screen then descends from the roof, showing the pair of hula girls, while behind them stands Team Rocket's Meowth, holding the end of a rope that has been used to tie up Pikachu and Eevee. With further laughter, the two women then reveal themselves to be Jessie and James, as they recite their motto and taunt the twerps that this plan is utterly flawless. Unfortunately, in this they are quite right, as none of the heroes can think of a single way to get out of this. Perhaps Onyx could tunnel them to freedom, but they have no way of knowing where this room is situated, meaning it could be super high up, or underneath a building filled with people who could be injured if they recklessly damage the structural integrity. It truly does seem as though Team Rocket have won this time, until they hear a giggling from the screen, before it abruptly cuts to black. In the control room, Jessie and James frantically try to resolve this technical difficulty, not liking the idea of being cut off mid-monologue. But from behind them, Meowth points out that they have bigger problems, namely a weird cackling kid whose smile is giving him the creeps. Figuring they're on a villainous roll, the two Team Rocket grunts attempt to advance on the child, warning her not to muscle in on their business. But this just makes her laugh harder, as a faint blue psychic aura ignites around her. In an instant, Jessie and James find themselves paralyzed, as Meowth attempts to assist his friends. The girl toddles over and picks up the stolen Pokemon, teleporting away with another giggle. Back in the sealed room, the girl from the forest along with Pikachu and Eevee suddenly appear, and as she unties the pair, Ash and Serena rush up to hug their starters and thank her for the assistance. Even now the girl says nothing, instead merely giggling once more, then flashing that strange blue aura. Without warning, Ash, Brock, Lusia and Serena suddenly feel as though they are no longer standing on solid ground, a phenomenon which is proven to be accurate a moment later as they crash down onto a solid road a few feet below them. Rubbing their backs and backsides in the wake of this unpleasant landing, Lusia questions how they got outside, while Brock muses that maybe that little girl teleported them using whatever power she used to get Pikachu and Eevee back. Churlishly, Ash mumbles that he hopes that's the last they have to see of her, but Serena smiles that she doesn't mind her, since anyone who helps rescue Eevee is alright in her books. Having nothing else to say on the matter, the group rise to their feet, and it's only now that they truly take note of their surroundings. They're outside a strange building that kind of looks like some sort of temple. As Ash goes to ask whether any of his friends know what this place is, a bearded jogger approaches, explaining that this is the Saffron Gym, though if these kids are wise, they will get as far away from here as possible, since Sabrina is unbeatable. Unfortunately, this is just the wrong thing to say for voracious young battlers like Ash and Lusia, who in unison declare that the old man will see whether whether he can call her that after they've both gotten their marsh badges. Sighing deeply, the jogger implores them to reconsider, but when they refuse, he scowls that the foolishness of youth never changes. He then jogs away, the brim of his cap pulled low, while Ash and friends stride confidently into the gym, unaware of the nightmare they have just brought upon themselves. Even the interior of the gym is odd, with Serena commenting that something about it seems really spooky, and maybe the old guy had a point. However, brash as ever, Ash pats his companion on the back, grinning there's nothing to worry about. That is until a voice from out of nowhere makes him jump. A young man in a surgical mask then steps from the shadows to sneer that it looks like another group of unworthy rabble have come to challenge the great Sabrina. A little fed up with 2 cold receptions in a row from gym trainers, on top of all the other weird stuff that's happened in the last hour, Lusia snaps at the masked man they didn't ask for his opinion, before telling him to take them to Sabrina. Cackling darkly under his mask, the stranger nods, leading them deeper in until they reach a room that looks more like a temple than a gym, with torches burning on every wall and the scent of strong incense making their noses itch. At the far end is a raised dais obscured by a curtain, while the floor is the standard battlefield found in all gyms. Taking a knee, the man beseeches Sabrina to appear and battle these fools, though he cannot help but make a snide comment questioning the value of such an activity. This seems to anger Sabrina, as at once a blue aura surrounds the man as his hand darts up to clasp around his own throat. Urgently he pleads for mercy, and after a moment he is granted it, with his hand falling slack. Not wanting to risk angering Sabrina further, the man bolts from the room, and it is only when he is gone that the curtains part to reveal not one person, but 2. Seated on a throne is a handsome young woman with flowing green hair, while on her lap sits the little girl from before, smiling at the sight of her guests. Plucking up her courage, Lusia steps forth, demanding a chance to challenge for the marsh badge, and in a happy voice, the little girl replies that she'd like that, making Ash grin that in that case he'll challenge after Lucy is done with her match. Smile growing, the little girl replies in that case if they lose they'll have to become her friends and let her play with them, a condition both Ash and Lusia accept, figuring at worst they'll have to play a little dress up for the afternoon. With the terms settled, the adult woman then rises and floats over to the field, declaring this will be a one-on-one battle, bringing forth her Abra. A little confused by this whole situation, Lusia politely inquires as to which of the 2 women is Sabrina, to which the pair respond in perfect unison that they both are. This sends a shiver down the Sutopolean's spine, but all the same she reaches for Squirtle's ball, telling it to come out and win her this badge. Striking a cool pose, Squirtle takes to the field, though neither Sabrina nor Abra give any reaction. In fact, Abra appears to be sleeping, as a series of soft snores escape from it. From behind his friend, Ash chortles that this is too easy, since a sleeping Pokemon can't even fight back. But Lucia ignores this, having a feeling that like everything they've seen so far to do with Sabrina, there is more to Abra than meets the eye. However, as it stands, the only way she can test this theory is to attack, and so setting her feet and pointing dramatically, Lucia calls for a water gun. At once, a torrent of water shoots forth towards the sleeping Abra, but in spite of its status condition, the small Psyche type easily teleports away, appearing behind Squirtle. This startles Squirtle, but it is nothing compared to the shock it receives when its opponent suddenly glows white and evolves into a Kadabra. Now with even more potent telekinetic abilities, Kadabra raises the hand not holding a spoon, and causes that same blue psychic aura that bathed the masked man to coat Squirtle. Urgently, Lucia calls for a withdrawal, but this proves useless as the tiny turtle Pokemon is completely paralyzed. This leaves it at Kadabra's mercy, and as all assembled soon learn, neither the psychic type nor its trainer have any. What follows is an act of brutality, as the frozen body of Squirtle is slammed into the floor and ceiling, making special note to ensure each impact is head first, as punishment for Lucia attempting to hide Squirtle's head from them. From the challenges area, Lucia along with her friends cry their support for Squirtle to stay strong or else break free, and while this does give the water type the courage to keep holding on, even courage cannot last forever in the face of overwhelming power, and so it is that on the 10th impact, Squirtle's head lolls forward, signifying that it is unable to battle. Hanging her head, Lucia recalls her Pokemon, or at least she tries to, but before she can fully raise Squirtle's Pokeball, that same blue aura surrounds her, freezing her in place. Worriedly, Lucia asks what's happening, but with a smile the little Sabrina replies that she lost, so now she has to play with her. Trying to keep her cool, the aqua-haired girl says that she'll keep her promise, but she can't do that while frozen, a claim which makes the small child frown slightly as if pondering her words. Then after a pause she smiles again, and shakes her head, declaring that Lucia doesn't have to move, since what she wants is to play dolls. On these words, the blue aura intensifies, and to the horror of everyone, Lusia shrinks rapidly, not just vertically, but in terms of her dimensions, becoming almost completely flat as she is transformed into a small sack doll. With a soft flop, the doll of Lusia hits the floor where the real her stood just a moment ago, and as Ash, Brock, and Serena rush in, they find their friend entirely unresponsive. Furiously, Ash orders Sabrina to turn her back right now, but the elder Sabrina coldly responds that these were the terms of their deal, so she's simply claiming what's hers, and should Ash lose his battle, he will meet the same fate. Grabbing hold of Ash's arm, Serena urges him not to go through with this battle, not wanting to lose him too. With fire in his eyes, the young hero replies that he can't leave a friend in that state, so he'll agree to Sabrina's terms. But in return, if he wins, she has to return Lusia to normal. Now it is the adult Sabrina's turn to contemplate, though it is the younger one who speaks, shaking her head again and saying no deal, since it's not fair to take her dolly when she's not getting anything extra out of the new deal. This causes a sinking feeling to form in Ash's stomach, as he doesn't know what to say to this, though thankfully the same cannot be said of Brock. Stepping forward, the pewter gym leader adopts a friendly tone, born of his years of caring for and negotiating with his younger siblings, and saying that he totally understands where she's coming from, so how about he sweeten the deal? If she wins, she gets 2 new dolls instead of 1. This clearly interests little Sabrina, and seeing this, Brock elaborates, saying that he will battle alongside Ash, and if Sabrina can defeat them both, he'll let her make him into a doll as well. Shocked at their usually level-headed friend's bold declaration, Ash and Serena ask if Brock's really thought this through, but with a determined smile, Brock replies that he wouldn't be much of a man if he abandoned the woman he loves, so he'll either help save her from her fate, or he'll join her forever. Such a romantic gesture is enough to silence Serena's objections, while Ash is happy to accept help, clasping his friend's hand and vowing they'll rescue Lusia together. From her side of the field, the 2 Sabrinas accept this offer, with the elder using her psychic powers to create a mirror doppelganger of Kadabra for her younger counterpart to command, while Ash and Brock bring forth their Pokemon, Charmander for Brock, and to the shock of everyone, Beedrill for Ash. With no further preamble, the battle begins, and Brock immediately takes the first move, calling for a flamethrower on the duplicate Kadabra, clearly following his heart rather than his head. This unfortunately backfires, as the elder Sabrina, acting out of pure rationality, is easily able to stop this, by having her Kadabra use confusion. But this is not where Brock's problems end, as with a flick of its wrist, Kadabra turns the flames into a fearsome dragon which it sends flying back at Beedrill. Panicking, Ash tells Beedrill to fly away, and knowing it would be wise to do so, even if it wounds its pride to run, the bug type takes to the air. However, no matter how fast or far it flies, the psychically enhanced fire wyvern stays in its tail, chasing it down until it finally engulfs the poison bee Pokemon. Being both a psychic and fire attack, this does absolutely massive damage to Beedrill, who hits the ground hard, seemingly having been taken out in a single hit. Grinning, little Sabrina laughs that this means it's time for Ash to become her new dolly. At once, the blue aura surrounds him, but before the girl can shrink her next victim, a fierce buzzing fills the room. Looking down, everyone witnesses Beedrill prop itself up on its stinger's arms, and as Ash cheers for his friend, the child Sabrina lets out a disappointed sigh, releasing Ash. However, this is only so she can order her Kadabra to finish Beedrill off with a psychic. Seeing this, adult Sabrina tells her Kadabra to do likewise, with the 2 psychic types linking their mind and producing a powerful wave of psionic energy which shoots directly at the bug. Once more panic begins to take Ash. How can he fight Pokemon whose attacks just keep coming and hit so hard? However, while he freezes, Brock acts, having Charmander leap in front of Beedrill and use Flamethrower to push the combined psychic attack back. Letting out a high-pitched roar, Charmander belches a mighty torrent of fire, which collides with the wall of psionic energy, slowing its approach and almost bringing it to a halt. Worried for his friend overcoming his fear, Ash asks what Brock's doing, but with a serious expression, Brock replies that he's doing what needs to be done to keep Beedrill in the fight, since it's their best chance of rescuing Lusia. Thanking his friend for this, Ash tells Beedrill that they need to act fast if they're to win, and as the poison bee looks back at him, it gives a soft buzz that says, "I will put my faith in you this time, human. Don't screw this up." Giving Beedrill a thumbs up, Ash tells it to channel all the damage it just suffered into a payback, an order Beedrill is happy to fulfill, buzzing malevolently as dark energy coats its stingers. Due to a desire to make this a true act of payback, Beedrill molds this energy to specifically resemble the wyvern that struck it, so that as it lunges at its prey, it is as a three-headed monster hell-bent on vengeance. This terrifying sight makes child Sabrina squeak in fright, while the adult variant erroneously decides that the best course of action is to keep the pressure up on Charmander rather than try and stop Beedrill's charge. This decision comes back to bite, or rather sting, the pair of Sabrinas almost immediately, as with a clear run-up, Beedrill drives its first stinger into the Kadabra doppelganger, shattering it like the mirror reflection it is under the force of its dark-type attack, before turning to do likewise to the original. However, unfortunately for Ash, when Beedrill destroyed the doppelganger Kadabra, its power all returned to the real one, meaning that it is now a full-strength Psychic type who faces down the bug. Abandoning the clash with Charmander, even at the cost of taking a head-on flamethrower, Kadabra uses confusion to hold Beedrill in place, keeping it suspended until enough time has passed that the second super effective payback dragon dissipates. It then hurls the poison bee into the wall, which as Ash and Brock both recall from their battle, is how it went down then. Though whether due to faith in Ash, or sheer hatred for this Kadabra, Beedrill doesn't fall, instead jerkily flapping its way back onto the field, with fire in its eyes. During this time, Brock has Charmander rush in, and not wanting to give Kadabra any more weapons to use against Beedrill, the little lizard uses Scratch. This is a trifling blow, but the fact Kadabra didn't see it coming incenses the Psychic type, with it telekinetically blowing Charmander away with enough force to cleave through the battlefield. By now, none of the Pokemon looking all that good, with Beedrill clearly being the most damaged. In fact, by Ash's best guess, it probably can't even endure one more hit. Reaching the same conclusion, Brock tells Ash that he'll make an opening for Beedrill again. He just needs Ash to do something for him. Furrowing his brow, Ash asks what it is, and with resolution in his tone, Brock replies that no matter what happens, he needs Ash to keep going and capitalize on the opportunity he is about to buy him. The stalwart son of Pewter then calls for a flamethrower, and at once Charmander repeats the opening move of the match. Like before, Kadabra stops this, turning into a dragon and firing it back at the challenger's Pokemon. But this is exactly what Brock wanted, as he yells at Ash and Beedrill to do it now, before commanding Charmander to intercept the attack. Understanding the plan at last, Ash orders Beedrill to use Twin Needle, and as the bug zips towards its foe, Charmander leaps into the onrushing Fire Dragon, taking the hit and subsequently fainting, so that Beedrill can have a clean shot. As soon as Charmander's beaten body hits the ground, blue psychic aura washes over Brock, and with a giggle from little Sabrina, he is quickly transformed into a doll as well, though to his credit, he expresses no fear, instead using his last action to give Ash a smile that says he believes in his young friend to see their plan through to the end. From the ground, Charmander lets out a piteous wail as the Brock doll lands beside Lusia, but Ash has no time to mourn, instead yelling encouragement to Beedrill, who raises its stinger and with a furious buzz thrusts it directly at Kadabra's forehead, only for it to be blocked by a psychic barrier an inch from the Psy Pokemon's face. From the sidelines, Serena feels as though she can't breathe. Brock sacrificed himself to give Ash this chance, only for it to fail at the last second, and now Beedrill will surely be taken out in the next hit, meaning Ash will be made into a doll as well. So terrible is this thought that it takes all her self-control not to break down in tears right this instant. But strangely enough, Ash doesn't seem sad, or scared, or anything bad. In fact, he seems pleased. And as the two Sabrinas see this, Ash grins they forgot what move he just called for. Twin Needle. Suddenly, Beedrill's other stinger darts out, not head-on like the first, but from below, striking Kadabra with an uppercut that catches it under the jaw and sends it flying off its feet. This attack comes as such a shock that Kadabra cannot even use its psionic powers to cushion its fall, and so when its back slams into the hard floor of the battlefield, it is rendered unconscious, granting the win to Ash. Neither Sabrina can believe that they have just lost. Their faces mirrored masks of shock as they stare down at Kadabra, but Ash is in no mood to let them wallow, instead demanding they do as they promised and return his friends to normal. Stoically, the adult Sabrina nods, then as her eyes flash, Brock and Lusia begin to grow, reverting back to their human states. Lucia's first act upon being returned to normal is to throw herself on Brock, hugging him tight and exclaiming that while she was a doll, she heard everything he said, and she loves him too. Blushing so red it looks as though he has a fever, Brock mumbles something incoherent, seemingly at peak bliss to hear a girl say that to him, while the Sabrinas return to their throne, stopping only to float a pair of marsh badges over to Ash and Brock as a testament to their victory here. Still a bit red-faced, Brock admits that he really doesn't need this badge since he's already a gym leader, though if Lusia would like, she can have it. Shaking her head, the Sutopolian declares that she'd rather earn her badges, though when Serena points out that this would require her to come back and challenge Sabrina again, Lusia promptly decides that on second thought, one gifted badge is probably alright. A decision which makes her friends all laugh as they head out of the gym, their sights now set on Serena and Lucia's next contest, which happens to be in the neighbouring Lavender Town. And that's where we'll leave things. What adventures await our heroes on the road to Lavender Town? How will their experiences with Sabrina's psychic powers impact them? And who will walk away with the coveted lavender ribbon? Find out as the journey continues.